It is Friday, February 28th, and this is episode number 9 of Super GameTalk Turbo HD Remix. I'm your host, Capanius, and as always, I'm joined by the world's greatest Street Fighter, Vertigo Tea Party.
Hadouken.
Yes, or your guile is specifically amazing that you beat me pretty much every time.
World's best guile, I think.
Yeah, world's best guile. So
confirmed.
We did get to play some Street Fighter this week that I have a lot to learn from you, Sensei.
You won a game.
Yeah, eventually. It was hard fought.
This again, keep in mind I spent ridiculous amount of my youth playing Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat like 2 through 4. So that range I'm still like doing pretty okay. Take me out of that and it's awful.
All right, yeah, we should play some Injustice sometime.
Yeah, that would be ugly. I would be very ugly.
So we're finally back once again. It's been 3 weeks since our last episode. This is the longest Super Game Talk drought you've had to experience yet.
Our book tour just went on longer than I thought it was going to.
It's really I'm having a hard time getting around town with all the paparazzi and it's been tough.
I mean, the crowds have been insane. We appreciate all you thousands of folks coming out.
So we really appreciate your patience in getting this episode number 9. Everybody was anxious about when this would be out. I had people asking me just on the street randomly, when are you going to get episode 9 out? It's finally here. So to get things started off in our regular routine, what games have you been playing?
Well, I played Loadout. I needed a co-op game to play with some people. And I looked around and Loadout is a free-to-play third-person shooter. And I still cringe when I hear free-to-play.
I just did when you said it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a more of a mental thing. Now, when you say Facebook games, I literally physically shudder when I read Facebook games.
I get a little sick to my stomach.
Yeah. So, I've been playing good free-to-play games, but that nasty taste is still in my mouth. But this game was actually a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's very like over the top. Like when you have a health bar, but as you're taking damage, like if somebody's shooting you in the arm, parts like chunks of meat of your arm are gone. So like you're just running around, you got this bone exposed, and if somebody did like a lot of fire damage to you but didn't kill you, you'll run around like your entire upper torso is just charred, and your face and your hair is gone. It's just like a pair of eyeballs. It's
cool.
It's pretty awesome, and like I say, it's totally over the top. It doesn't take it so seriously, and it's customizable. I think that's where they went with the Loadout name, is that you can have 2 weapons, like 2 guns, and then a grenade of some kind. And you can customize and name your own weapons. So, like if you want a fast shooting rifle that shoots lightning bullets, you can do that. Or you can change the clip size, you can change all these other things to get it just to where you like, which is really cool. And another thing I really enjoy is I like support in PvP. Any kind of PvP game I like to do, except Team Fortress 2, I don't play Medic much. But in a lot of like PvP, especially MMOs, I like to do a support role. In that game, you can buy bullets that heal your allies or buff them. And what's cool, it's a really cool mechanic, is I shoot my ally, and it's funny because it's like shoot syringes. So the enemy, like your ally, would have all these syringes sticking all out of their body.
That sounds awesome.
And you can overheal them. So it's kind of like Team Fortress 2, where you can heal them more than their max. Mm-hmm. So you can like double their hit points. And if you start healing them over their normal max, you start getting healed. So you can overheal yourself in the same way. And buffs work the same way. You can have this buff gun that increases your speed and I think gun damage. And I think it also shoots syringes. And you shoot your enemy or shoot your allies, and it's got like a buff meter that'll go up. So the higher it goes, the faster and the more damage they do. So I've actually got loadouts where I only take a healing gun and a buff gun. I can't do any damage except for melee and grenades. Mm-hmm. But I can really get my teammates like high health and damage. And it actually works out pretty damn well. Like there'll be times that it's 2v2 and we'll win easily, because I'm buffing and healing the hell out of the other guy, and he's just destroying them. It's a hell of a lot of fun.
So I guess the thing about like a flexible like support roles like that if you're playing 2v2 and both guys decide like I'm gonna be buff for a while, like it takes a certain amount of communication to keep the balance correct, right?
Well, when I say 2v2, I mean like you just run into 2 other people on the field.
Okay. And not like the actual matches.
Right. I think all matches are 5v5. I think it's 4v4. I think. So yeah, if more than one person goes strictly buff and heal, that could be a definite problem. I was in one game where like 3 or 4, or maybe every person had a buff gun. Mm-hmm. So like we were just running around healing, and like one person would be shooting, and everybody else would be healing him and healing each other.
It's like 1-0 death matches after 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was hilarious to watch it just play out. It just happened that way. We didn't really plan it. It was all just random pickup games. But I definitely suggest if you want a game you can just pick up, play for 15 minutes, and I've only played it for a couple of hours, like maybe 4-ish hours. So far, I haven't felt the need like, if I want to get this upgrade, I need to pay money. Most of the money I've seen is for like character customization, just makes you look different. Yeah, I think you can buy bloots. Bloots is the in-game currency that you use to unlock like bullets and rifle, muzzles and all that kind of stuff.
Does it feel kind of like Counter-Strike where you have to actually like buy bullets? Or like
you don't have to buy bullets. Well, you unlock a bullet type.
Oh, okay.
So if I want to buy the healing bullets, I have to spend bloots for it. But you get bloots just for playing the game, like winning matches, losing matches. Yeah. I think you get bloot bonuses based on your contribution. Bloots, yeah.
Nice.
I have no idea.
Did you spend any money? It's okay.
No,
it's okay. No. It's okay. It's a safe place. You can tell us. You spent $400 on this game
already. It's only been like 4 hours. But yeah, no, I think you can buy bloots if you want, but unless you just, I guess, wanted to unlock a ton of different things to try them out, then I don't really see the need to. And again, I'm not even sure you can buy them, but I think you can. But what's another cool thing, too, is especially since the bloots are important, you can like load a gun out, like try different things, even buffs you don't have, and say, here, try this out. Mm-hmm. And you'll go into and fight some AIs and just try it out and see if you like it. So that way you don't spend all this bloot and you're like, this gun sucks, or I didn't know this was like this. So they thought that out really well. The matchmaking so far has worked really good. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of lag when I played.
Cool.
But it's a hell of a lot of fun. I definitely suggest folks try it out.
And that's on Steam, or that's...
Yes.
Cool.
It's on Steam. I forget who made the game. Another game I played was small game. It's an indie game that just is coming out. It's called Titanfall.
Oh, I hadn't heard about that one.
Yeah, it's not getting a lot of press.
Right.
But they had a beta. I think like 20 people downloaded the beta.
Cool.
That.
It's a big turnout for them. Good for them.
It was nice. But yeah, Titanfall was fun. I gotta say, I don't know if I mentioned this in another podcast or if I just mentioned it to Travis off camera, but
Wait, another podcast? Are you cheating on me? What's going on?
Nobody wants me even in this one.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe our 2 listeners are going to be so heartbroken.
Yeah, they will be, I'm sure.
Right.
But Vertigo Tea Party YouTube, check it out. But like, I wasn't really expecting much. I don't know why, I just wasn't following it. I'm not really that big into the whole mech thing in general. It's not like I dislike it, but I'm like, oh yeah, mechs. So
I wouldn't consider that like a mech game. Like, that's its angle.
I think most people consider it a mech game until the beta weekend.
Oh, really? Like, I just, when I think of mech game, I think of, like, Virtual On and, like, those old hardcore, like, what was it? Steel Battalion and, like, things like that. Like,
Mech Light. How about
this? Is like,
would that make you feel better, Mech Light, if I call it Mech
Light?
Like
Call of Duty with mechs.
Oh, man. There's somebody out there that's busted an hard.
Yeah, like the thing is, there's a lot of differences between Titanfall and Call of Duty, so I'm not ruling it off. But it is closer to Call of Duty than a traditional mech game.
Right. Yeah. And first of all, I gotta say, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. It's honestly, and I've heard this a lot, so it wasn't just me, that the on foot was more fun to me than the mechs. Like, it's not to say the mechs weren't fun, but your mobility when you're just playing as the pilot, all the playable people are called pilots. is crazy. Like the parkour elements are just fun as hell to use, like running and double jumping through a window and then wall running along the side and jumping off and then jumping into an enemy's mech and like shooting it. Like that kind of stuff is a hell of a lot of fun. It feels really smooth. The controls, they nailed the controls. I really enjoy the controls, and like I say, the Titan is fun too. And it's just, I think part of it is because they're not as mobile. They can definitely move. Like they're definitely faster than pilots, but the actual mobility is less.
Yeah, what's interesting is I feel like that had to happen for like they wanted to make these huge levels with mechs and everything. And if they didn't have that parkour element, it would have been torture to get around.
Oh yeah.
Like, so what's interesting is I think that was like a design decision to compensate for, you know, your lack of movement while you're outside of a mech. But I think it's really going to be one of the key differentiations from Call of Duty is the movement difference.
Yeah,
controls.
Oh, yeah.
And I personally didn't get a chance to play it, but I watched you play it for a while, and I could just tell how different it was in terms of control.
Yeah, it was crazy, and like I said, all that stuff is super easy to pull off. Like obviously the more advanced jumping and wall running and getting like a perfect jump, maybe a little bit more difficult, but you'll be like the really cool shit you see, like, you know, jumping out a window and then double jumping and then wall running along the side of a mech and then jumping off the wall onto the enemy's mech and then blowing it up. That kind of stuff is absolutely doable by most people within like an hour or two of getting used to the controls, I think. So I enjoyed it. The AI grunts, at first I was like, yeah, this is cool. Like it feels like there's kind of the grunts there and gives it more a dynamic feel. But as I went on, the grunts were just really annoying. Like they were just in the way. They almost never shoot at you. Like most of the time they're just shooting at each other. And I think I got killed by a grunt like one time. And
you're awful.
Yeah, I felt bad. I did feel bad. I felt bad. I was like, wow, I got by a grunt. But you just mow them down.
Yeah.
Like they're just absolutely fodder. Yeah, they're complete fodder. And I've heard, which I haven't verified this, but I've heard some people were just maxing their scores out by just pretty much farming grunts.
Yeah.
I honestly think the grunts aren't completely unnecessary. They feel distracting. It's really annoying to run around a corner and you're like, oh, enemies. Oh, it's just the AI. Or, oh, I got some kills. Oh, it's just the AI.
I think it's just to give people that boost of like, I'm doing good. Because when it's solely human on human, if you're a less than average player, like those games are quickly become no fun. Like it's just like, I'm not having fun. I turn it off. And I think those grunts are there to prevent that like that type of player from just giving up. Because I think, you know, less just, and I'm not saying like terrible players, I'm just saying like just below average would quickly find that they're getting killed a lot. But now with grunts, it's like, I killed those couple guys and then, you know, I died, but I got a couple kills then. And so they're just getting points, and it's just it's a feedback loop thing. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're just distracting and they take away from the game overall.
Are there modes you can play without them?
In beta, no. I'm hoping that they give, like, maybe people can make custom servers, I don't know, where they can turn them off, because that would be great. There were some other things I really did not like. The smart gun, or whatever the hell they're calling it. It's basically, the way it works is it auto targets, but it's not like an auto aim like you're used to. Like you have this wide kind of rectangular area in front of the gun, and if you're in range, you put the enemy within the brackets for X amount of time, and it kind of like puts dots on them, like it's trying to, you know, zoom in on them or lock in, be more appropriate. And then once it's locked in, it kind of flashes. You can pull the trigger and it'll shoot for you. And they try to balance it out. Well, grunts, it kills grunts like there's no tomorrow, because it just takes one bullet. So I ran up on 4 grunts sometimes, and it would lock on the grunts. I would pull the trigger once, and the gun would shoot 4 times and just instant kill all 4 grunts. So, but killing players or pilots is harder, but it's still not that hard. Like, because I kept dying by it. I was like, okay, can this gun be that easy to use? So I started using it, and I was like, yes, this gun is that easy to use. And I gotta say, I was really disappointed with that. it's one of those guns I would think just shouldn't exist. Like
at all, not
no,
just like
because I
nerf
think
it?
if you nerf it too much, it just becomes total crap. And I guess it would still be good for people who didn't have like really good like aiming.
Mm-hmm.
But if you nerf it so much, then they're going to die by the other player anyway. They're probably
Right.
the other person's going to shoot them and kill them by then, probably anyway. So I have a hard time seeing how they could properly balance it. Shotguns, I actually said bad things about the shotgun at first, but the more I used it, the more I liked it. Really far range is total crap, but medium range is actually still like really good.
Cool.
And one of the modes is like a capture point where you stand on the capture point for X amount of time and convert it over. A lot of times that's it's always indoors. So the shotgun's really, really nice there because it's like one shot kill a pilot if you do it right. So that was really, really good. Kicks are also way overpowered. Like melee, they pulled the same crap with this Call of Duty where they think, oh, melee hit, you should auto kill that person. It's worse here. It's actually even more abusable because you can jump around and move around so much, and you become such a harder target to hit. It's very easy to sneak up on someone or just get up on them and kick. Like, it's super easy.
Yeah, I don't think that should be an auto kill. I feel like, in a way, it makes more sense in Call of Duty because movement's slower, and so there's more of a payoff if you sneak up on somebody. And so there was something really satisfying about clicking that button and then clicking the joystick, and then just you get your knife out like, ha, gotcha, because I snuck up on you. But
there's a neck snap type thing you can do to people. If you get behind them and like press an attack, that's fine. Like if you get in behind someone, I'm totally fine with an instant kill. That's fine. But like just like you saw people just jumping around like spamming kick and getting kills with it because it's so hard.
Dumb.
Because not only do you have to get away from it, now if you want to get away from it, you have to be jumping around and running and trying to shoot, and it's much easier to just run around and jump kick and get a lucky.
They should just call it parkour kicks.
Yeah, that needs to be nerfed. They probably won't because they loved it in Call of Duty for whatever reason.
It'll be interesting to see what direction they want to go with the balance of this stuff. Like, if they're actually going to be proactive to see, like, these matches are really dumb because people are just jumping around and kicking and all this stuff, or if they're going to just let that happen. They don't care about it. Like, I don't know. I'm curious because, like, the thing is, everybody's going to be playing it the first week. Like, it's like it's going to be huge. There's going to be millions of copies sold, but I'm just curious about how many people are going to be playing this in 4 months. Like,
I say it's got lasting power.
Okay,
like by the end of the beta, I was kind of like, okay, I've played Titanfall.
Yeah,
I won't be picking it up at launch. It wasn't because I didn't like it, but it felt like already it was starting to get a little stale. Now, obviously, the full game's going to have more maps and stuff, so that'll help with that. But I felt like...
Did they have a announced DLC schedule or anything like that?
I do not know. But, and that's just me. I just don't feel like it's worth $60 right now. If it's, on sale later on for $30 or something, I might consider picking it up. But I don't see myself, like, sitting down and just really playing it, like, a lot. So...
It was kind of weird how... the Call of Duty games retain their value so well. Mm-hmm. Like, Call of Duty, even a year after it had been out, was like on sale for $40. And it's like, whereas other games would drop in value. And I guess it's just because there's such an active online community.
Yeah.
But it was weird
people
to see
getting banned for hacks and
how stable the value of Call of Duty would stay. So I'm curious if Titanfall is not going to be going on sale very often.
I wouldn't be surprised if it did the same thing.
Yeah,
because like I said, despite my getting kind of like to the point where I was over it, I think a lot of people will find like many hours in it.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's the thing is, you and me aren't the kind of people that will play a shooter for like hundreds of hours.
Except Team Fortress 2, which I have like 400-ish hours in.
Yeah.
Other than that,
I don't think there's any shooter that I've spent that much time on, at all. But there's people out there. I'm amazed at how many hundreds of hours they can play Call of Duty over and over and over and over again. And I don't really get that. Like I know.
Well, we have taste in games, so we don't really understand.
Yeah,
we can't really bring ourselves to that level.
It's crazy though. Like people, it's like that's all they play. Like people have owned 360 for 5 years now, and all they've ever played is Call of Duty. Like,
I had a video about that, like about the gamers versus like non-gamers.
Well, I would say they're still gamers. They're just different kinds of gamers. I don't. That's so like elitist and exclusive. You're not a real gamer.
If you
like,
watch
you're not a
only
real
baseball,
sports fan. You're not a real. This.
If you only watch one sport, baseball, are you a sports fan?
Yeah, you like a sport.
See, I don't. When I think sports fan, it's not even like an elitist thing. It's like if somebody says I'm a sports fan, my assumption is, oh, you probably like multiple sports. Like not all of them necessarily, but you like sports in general. You like probably football and baseball and basketball, or whatever your sports are that you like.
I don't think there's any value in being particular of allowing people to share your label though. Like it's like you're not a gamer, I'm a gamer.
It's
like,
one of those things I don't
let
care
everyone
enough about.
be gamers. Like if you play Candy Crush, like fine, you're a gamer. Whatever. I don't care. Like
we're turning this podcast off right now. Well, that was it. I hope you enjoyed our run. He called Candy Crush gamers.
Positive inclusion.
It's one of those things where if somebody said I'm a gamer and you ask what they play and they just say Farmville, I'm not going to go, you're not a gamer, you piece of shit.
I've seen you do that exact thing.
I've thought it really hard.
I'm not a gamer.
But like when you're just talking about a section of people who enjoy a specific hobby, and you're kind of talking on more like abstract terms, I think that's when it matters. Like when you say things like, X percentage of gamers are male, or X percentage of gamers have this job, or whatever, you're talking in more like giant terms. Because one great example, there was that study that was done. It was like 50% of gamers are women. But then you find out, we included Facebook, we included all this stuff. When people say we want more women in gaming, I think they mean like more diverse games than just, I play Candy Crush or I play Farmville.
Right.
So in those terms is when I say I don't consider them a gamer, but I'm not going to...
I would not consider them a core gamer or a hardcore gamer.
Right. I think core gamer is more a correct term.
I think that is at least saying, like, I don't think you're a part of this subclassification of this culture. Whereas it's just saying you don't belong to this culture at all is needlessly exclusive.
But it has like small implications. Like for example, if you met someone and they were like, "Oh, I'm a gamer," and you're like, "Oh, that's cool." Like episode 2 Bioshock, I barely sees coming out, and they're like, "Oh, well, I only play Call of Duty." Like it's not like you're like, "Oh," but it's like, "Oh, well, we really don't have much to talk about because you only play one game, right?" It's the same with sports. Like, would you consider yourself a sports fan? You mostly just like baseball, though, right?
I tell you, my 3 favorite sports are baseball, Street Fighter, and StarCraft.
Okay, so just one sport.
Yeah. That joke's already...
How many people can I make angry in this one podcast? I'm running with it.
I think, we should go for the record,
That would be hard. I make 8 people angry very quickly, but...
What's the deal with people with Down syndrome anyway?
I know, God, get over it, Jesus. But, yeah, I don't... But so you would actually, like, if somebody asked, you would say, I'm a sports fan.
I don't
that's
use that terminology.
About.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not saying I would use that. It's like if somebody asks you if you're a sports fan, I'd just be like, I like baseball. Like
right, because you feel like you need to clarify because it's just the one sport.
Well, no, because that is just an effective means of communication with somebody because you're cutting to the chase. Like, well, what sport do you want to talk about?
But people who are like sports fans. They're like watching ESPN and they watch like football and baseball and basketball and soccer.
But why all this energy to exclude people? Like, why?
It's not really energy to exclude people.
Well, we're already like. I feel like you have a passion about this.
It's something that annoys me because people like get all uppity about it because like, oh, you're trying to exclude or like you're trying to be elitist. It's like it's not necessarily to say like, oh, those are the lesser gamers or whatever, even though they totally are. It's more about conversationalist type identification, I guess.
Okay.
Again, when you say, or again, like doing that study.
You just care about the like having an effective conversation with somebody where you can cut to the chase if you have something in common.
Right.
But I guess I've been on the outside of other interests like comic books where like I would be into comics, there's specific titles I like, but the comic book store clerk would be like, well, you're not a real comic book fan.
Oh, well,
and he'd be all snooty. And it's
that's totally different.
The thing is, though, there's so many geek subcultures that we don't need to be so shitty to people about.
Actually, if we have a lot of subcultures, can't we be shitty to people because there's one subculture you can fit into and be shitty to other people?
Yes, you can be that way, but I just feel like
I'm gonna create my own subculture. It's just me.
Yes, I mean, I think I just feel like those attitudes aren't inviting, and you don't get new people in, and when you don't get new people into your subgenre or subculture of gaming, then that thing runs the risks of not being an economically viable avenue for games to come out. I mean, if you look at what happened in the fighting game community,
oh god,
they're
one of the worst.
Yeah, they're kind of going through the realization of this, and there is a divide between the understanding of if you try to go to a fighting game forum and you ask a question, it's some of the rudest people that I've experienced. If any sub gaming culture, but there is, I'd say, just as many that are we need to stop this. They're very active, and people in that community that are blogging about it and putting out YouTube videos about it. It's we need to stop being dickheads all the time, because we want to play these fighting games, and if there's only 16 people around to play these fighting games, nobody's going to make these fighting games. So at some point, dickish exclusion will damage your interest.
Right. So just to be clear, yes, I think dickish exclusion is bad. But when you're talking about general classifications and clarifications, I think it's fine. As long as you're not saying, oh, well, you're not part of this classification.
Yeah,
then
if you're not
balls.
If I feel like there's no need to feel like you're superior to a person that's not.
Unless they just play Call of Duty, then you can feel superior to them. But everything else,
this is such a common personality trap for nerds. Why is that? I guess I'm curious about why so many.
Well, look at sports fans, man. Look at people who are you like the 49ers, you like the Yankees. Fuck you! And even though
that's
actually
all
feel
part of the
100%
game,
of that, I 100% feel
yeah,
fuck the Yankees. No, that's not part of the game. Seriously, fuck the Yankees.
Well,
I don't even follow baseball, and I hate the Yankees.
I just want to clarify something. I don't really hate the Yankees, but you know what? Fuck the Phillies. All right, if you're gonna
that's I guess they deserve more hatred.
Yeah, Philly.
Even more than the Yankees. That's saying
a Phillies fan or from the city of Philadelphia.
Hit yourself
You're
with a battery.
An awful person.
You are. God, get your life in order.
It's kind of empowering when you don't have many people that listen to you.
So
you can say whatever you want to.
Say it was super popular. People go back to the archives. Wow, these guys are assholes.
Oh man.
Keep in mind, part of what we're saying is because we find it amusing. Most of what I say is accurate, but Travis tends to over-exaggerate for comedy effect, which I do too, but then again, that over-exaggeration
is always fun.
Covering up my actual feelings, and that I really do hate the Phillies.
That you're just, at your core,
a
misanthropic person.
Yeah, I'm just a mean person.
Yeah.
Deep down inside.
You wake up and you just say hello to other people every day.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
But, so to summarize, exclusion, bad, but I don't have a problem with properly creating categories and assigning people to them to look at the industry as a whole.
I think it's good to know about the group of people you're talking about. And so if you're dividing core gamers from all gamers, that deserves specific, there's value in understanding the group of people you're looking at. So there is some ambiguity when you say gamer, what that can mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see. What else did I play?
So Titanfall.
Yeah, Titanfall. That's pretty much all I want to say about Titanfall, I think.
That's March 11th, right?
I think so.
March 11th has a lot of games coming out.
March in general. March always does, I think. But yeah, this March. March 11th, I think. What else is March 11th?
Well, I think there's...
Is it South Park?
Is Ground Zeroes? South Park?
South Park might be...
Towerfall Ascension?
No, South Park... I get it wrong. I think South Park is next week. I think.
You start the next game, and I'll bring up a list.
Yeah. So the next game I want to talk about very briefly is Burial at Sea, the part 1, the DLC for Bioshock Infinite. I beat that, and I definitely will avoid spoilers. It took me, I think, maybe 3 hours, 2.5 hours. I tend to explore like a lot, so any game always takes me longer.
Yeah, and there was some pretty cool areas to go off and explore too.
And I missed a lot of stuff too. So there's still many auto recordings I missed. I have to say again, no spoilers, but the ending left me like, what? Like, not in a good way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Bioshock Infinite kind of left me with a what? And part of that what was because I didn't understand part of what they laid out in front of you. And then when I read it on Reddit, I was like, holy shit, this is pretty sweet. But in this, I was kind of like, that doesn't make any sense. And I was like, that's kind of lame. And I've been kind of trying to roll it around in my head, try to figure out what it is. I haven't really read anything. Just wanted to kind of figure out on my own what I think might have been happening.
Yeah, and I think the trouble with trying to figure out what's going on is that this is part 1 of 2. So for all you know, you're not intended to understand anything.
Right.
So you're not getting the full Burial at Sea story arc.
Right.
So I'm just gonna like wait until Burial at Sea part 2 to like really double down on trying to understand the interpretation. I don't know. I feel like if you haven't played Burial at Sea part 1 yet, just wait until part 2 comes out so you can play them back to back.
Yeah, and that's soon.
Yeah, that's like was that March 25th?
Yeah, I think it's late March.
Yeah,
pretty sure it's late March.
March 25th.
So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be because I think you play Elizabeth in that one, right?
That's what I've heard.
Okay, I think you do play Elizabeth in that one. So that'll be interesting to play as her for once. Open my own rifts. I don't need anybody to open up my rifts.
Yeah.
But gameplay wise, it was pretty cool. There was more of what I liked. There was more skyline fighting, a little bit more. There was more pulling stuff in via rifts. That's the parts I really liked about Infinite, and I feel like there wasn't enough.
And they fixed the gun wheel design too. Or they added the gun wheel so you could have as many guns as you wanted.
I still only 2 weapons.
Nah.
Yeah.
No. You didn't use the gun wheel. You didn't use the best part of the DLC.
I don't know. It didn't tell me how to use it.
Oh, well, that might be true.
Because I just used the mouse scroll, and it would only. And if I tried to pick a second gun up, it would swap them.
Yeah, the mouse scroll will swap between 2 that you have, but you have all the guns with you, and you can assign them through the gun wheel. Because I remember, like they made that change.
Oh, well, I might have missed it, but
I thought it was weird that they didn't call it out.
That's a pretty big change. I must have completely missed it, but but it ended up not really mattering because 99% of the time I ended up using the melee attack.
Yeah,
because the upgrades I got made it really, really good.
Yeah, so
I ended up meleeing most of the enemies. Well, a very good chunk, and I wasn't getting hardly any ammo at all. Which I was playing on hard.
You played on hard. Yeah, I played it on medium.
Which I was okay with that because it forced me to play differently. It forced me to play a little bit more stealthy, and I had to be smarter about using my abilities, about using melee, try to take them out quite quietly. So I was okay with that. I was fine with that part until the end. Then it started to get a little drag, especially one fight at the end where you need a lot of ammo, and it's like, I don't have any ammo.
That one the same thing happened to me where I was running out of ammo and I had enough health, but I'm just like scrounging around for like a way to do this.
Yeah.
And it made the final encounter last a little too long, and it didn't have any tension. It was just kind of like, I gotta figure out what to do. And
the last fight in general I think was bad. Like at one point I was getting hit by the enemy and they weren't even in line of sight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? I don't even know what's doing damage to me right now.
I don't know if it was the design of that arena or like what, but I had weird issues in that fight.
Yeah, me too. And that it left a sour note. So hitting the ending right after that fight just like made it even worse. But yeah, it was pretty good. I would say, if you're buying these individually, I wouldn't pay more than $5 for it. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they've had a deal on the season pass or whatever before.
Yeah, there was the mistaken sale, which is when I bought the all access pass or whatever for $5.
Nice.
So I got all of them for $5. And I played with the battle in the cloud, clash in the clouds a little bit. I like the idea of it. But I was just testing it out. But so I don't have any in-depth experience with it. Let's see. The next game, Banished. This is an interesting game. It's made, I think, almost entirely by one person. I think one person did the music, but like everything else, this one guy did. It's insane. But it's kind of a Tropico SimCity city builder type thing where your people have been banished and you have to build a city, and it's more like, you know, you're building like wooden cabins and things like that. So you have to worry about things like gathering food and, you know, getting resources like stone and chopping down trees. And then as you get bigger, you have to worry about your health of the civilization and trade. You can grow, you know, have these fields growing different crops, things like that. I haven't played much of it. The girl that I'm dating, she's put like 20 plus hours in it already. Wow. She's really enjoying it. She likes this type of game.
Yeah, I think what's cool when you get into that kind of game, it's a little scary how many hours you can put into it. Like Civ or SimCity back in the day, like not SimCity last year, mind you. But like, you know, SimCity 2000, I remember that. I feel like that's when kind of that series, like, well, that was the best release. Yeah, I think so. But
I loaded up SimCity 2000 and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. I don't know how well that game aged.
I have it on GOG.
Yeah.
And I loaded it up without reading the manual because I was like, let's see if I can figure it out. And I was like, nope.
So that runs all right? Like they have compatibility patches and stuff?
GOG is really good about that. I don't think I've ever had a problem with a GOG game that just didn't run.
I feel like they're very underrated. Like they do a lot of, they do a lot of awesome work to make things work again. Like, you know, to make compatibility patches and stuff so you can just like download this old PC game and run it. And I think that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they're underrated though. I think more and more people know about them.
Yeah,
I think they're relatively popular.
Okay.
And they've run some interesting sales, like the one where you could basically either thumbs up or thumbs down a sale. And if lots of people thumbed it down or gave it negative, it would end a lot quicker. And then every time somebody bought it, it would bump up by 3 seconds. That was just cool to watch. Like it was really interesting to see which games like went it by really quick because nobody was buying it and everybody was downvoting it, versus games because I think the default time was like an hour and a half for sale, but then some games would last 4 hours. Like Deus Ex, the original, lasts like 4 hours.
Wouldn't you downvote anything you already had though, so that you'd want to get to the next sale fastest? Yeah,
but when you downvote, it only takes 1 second off. But then if you upvoted, it gave it like 2 or 3 seconds, and if they bought it, it gave it like 5, something like that.
But I guess I feel like that doesn't necessarily equate to meaning you don't like that sale because if you already own that game.
Yeah, and I think they try to make it so that the downvotes wouldn't just obliterate a game that not many people wanted, because the downvote had the less weight. It was only 1 second.
Yeah, that makes
sense.
So
and also you don't feel bad if you've downvoted. It's like, well, I'm only downvoting in a second, and if people really want it, even without buying it, you can increase it by 2 or 3 seconds by plussing it. Okay. Because I did that for a game I owned. I forget which one it was. I was like, everybody should have this game, so I plussed it to give it more time. So and if people are buying it because it's popular, then it's going to stay up there. No many people are downvoting it anyway. So yeah, GOG is awesome. GOG.com. Check it out. The last game that I wanted to talk about, anyway, Banished. Great game so far. It's getting a lot of positive reviews. I'm hoping to play that a lot more because I love that type of game.
And that's Steam, right?
Yes, it's $20 on Steam.
Cool.
Which seems to be a reasonable price because people, like I said, girl, she's at least 20 hours, probably more than that. She had like 15 hours within the first 24 hours that game was out. It was crazy. So she loves it. So, not Titanfall, but Thief. I played The Thief.
The Thief.
I played The Thief. That's what it's called. The Thief reboot. I think it's important to note that I love the original series. The Thief series is like my second favorite series of all time. I think some of those are some of my favorite games ever made. All of them. Yes, including 3. And a lot of the things coming out of Eidos during the development of this game were incredibly scary to hear. Things like, oh, you get bonus XP if you headshot an enemy with an arrow. And, oh, you can play through stealth if you want, but if you want to go in with your sword blazing and stuff, you can do that too. It's like, no, this is all wrong. Like, this is not how you do a stealth game. and it just had all the markings like they were making Dishonored 2. Like it really looked like they were just trying to copy Dishonored, and it was incredibly disheartening. But near the end of the cycle, they started to come out and say, "Look, some of the stuff that we've backed off, we've totally changed. The XP system is totally gone in the game. You don't get XP, and I don't think you even get a sword, like unless I just haven't got it yet." And I'm like 7 hours in. I don't even have a sword. Like in the first Thief, you had a sword, and you could fight. And honestly, and like there's people completely over exaggerating in Thief. It's like, oh, if you got attacked by a guard, you were just doomed. It's like, no, I used to kill the guards all the time.
Yeah.
The thing with the original Thieves were, if you had like one guard, you could take them out. If you were smart, you could take them out pretty easy. 2 guards, it might get a little dicey, and you might have to do a little kiting. But 3 guards, like then you're in serious trouble. You should probably just run away. And don't even talk about those undead ghosts with the swords. They would just obliterate you. And this was even worse on harder difficulties because they like could 2-shot you with the sword. So you had to be a lot more careful. So, you know, I went into this Thief very negative. Like, I tried to be as thinking, okay, you know, I don't want the game to be bad.
So this was all part of their marketing plan to lower people's expectations.
Yes, lower your expectations as much as humanly possible.
So then, when it's not terrible, you'll be like, "This game's amazing."
Yeah. So I went in incredibly pessimistic. I tried to be, I wanted to be as objective as possible, though. So again, I'm about 7 hours in, and so far I'm enjoying it. I think it's a good stealth game so far. I'm playing on first of all, you can customize a lot of things. You can, like, there's the 3 different difficulties, and then you can customize on top of those, so that on top of master difficulty, you can take off focus. You can make it so that you can't heal via food. You can make it so that you can only save at checkpoints, things like that, to make the game harder and harder. And there's even like an Iron Man mode, where if you set all the options in the Iron Man mode, if you get spotted by anyone at any point in the game, you had to start all the way from the beginning of the game.
That's insane.
Like that's
not just
nuts.
Iron Man. That's just insane.
Yeah, that's nuts. So it's definitely there, and obviously you would want to play through the game a lot before you do that. But it's cool that it's there, and you can turn off a ton of different like visual aids. Like, for example, the items that you can steal that kind of glint, and you can turn that off.
Just like real life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All the bling.
Cool.
All it always glints very brightly. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. I think it's a good stealth game, but it's not necessarily a great stealth success or a Thief successor. Part of what made Thief the original so good was it wasn't just the gameplay. The gameplay was great, but the characters, the voice acting, the music, the art style, the cinematics, the world itself, like it all really built this awesome world that Thief lived in. And that's what I loved about Thief. I love the characters. I love everything in it. The music, I loved everything. It's just very, very Thief, and I really loved it. This game definitely is lacking there. You have a different voice actor for Garrett. He's not bad, but he's not the original guy. Which, if you play Skyrim, you've heard him a ton. He does a lot of different voices in Skyrim. The original voice actor for Garrett.
Bethesda has like 12 voice actors.
Yeah,
you hear a lot of the same voice actors in different characters. But
yeah, but yeah, he's all right. They changed it originally when they first showed the first concept art. It was awful. Like he had black fingernails. Like he was all goth. It was like, oh, are you kidding me? So he's better now, but he's still a little weird.
It's interesting to see like when, companies come out with concept art for an established character, if they reevaluate when people are like, no, that's crap or whatever. Because
they did that with Dante as well.
That's what I was going to say. Did they change Dante after?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They changed him quite a bit.
So has there ever been a time where a company just totally sticks to its guns? It's like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, we're going to make this character look this way.
I can't think of any other times it's come up where it's been like people were outraged.
Yeah.
I mean, Lara Croft is basically, she's different.
I think people were pretty happy with the newest Lara
because they didn't
Croft.
go like, hey, look, she's got like double D's bouncing around while
Yeah.
she's trying to tomb raid. She was
'Cause
like
it
more
was-
realistic.
It was more realistic and also more gritty. And
Yeah.
it's like, I think people are like, yeah, I want that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
But,
I heard very little grumblings about her.
Yeah.
Her redo on her character. I think it was really well done. I can't think of any other characters for a reboot where they drastically changed the character. I'm sure there are,
yeah.
without question, but I can't think of any, and especially where the people were like, no, like this is awful. But yeah, this is the second instance that I'm aware of where people freaked out and they went, oh, okay, we'll change him. And, like I say, I like the new character. I like the old one better, but he's definitely better than the original concept they came up with. But it doesn't feel like it's got its own flavor, right? It feels like generic medieval world.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it has its own things, like, there's a disease going around, and, there's, individual characters that are kind of interesting, but it's pretty generic. So it's lacking there, I think. And that's probably one of the biggest negatives I would give it, is that it doesn't, like, if you were to name this game something else,
Yeah.
and like name the protagonist something different,
Burglar.
people would go, this is kind of like Thief. But other than that, you wouldn't be like, oh, this is definitely a Thief ripoff, because the world is just so bad. It's not the same. Like, you're missing a lot of the things, at least so far. You're missing a lot of things, because I think they flat out said there's no hammers, there's no pagans, which were huge in the original. They were very important central elements to at least Thief 1 and 2. I don't remember the overarching story of Thief 3. But those are missing. A lot of the like magic type stuff is gone. There's a little bit of magic, it seems to be, but it's not as prevalent, which is unfortunate. So, and when I haven't had any crappy missions, like Thief had some crappy missions.
Yeah.
Like, it was more Tomb Raider type missions where you're going into a sunken city and you're like, there's these weird dinosaur creatures and these fire elementals, and it's like, this is not really very thiefy at all.
It was the 90s PC games.
Yeah, well, Thief 2, they fixed it, and Thief 2 is generally regarded as the best of the series. Cool. But and the only other there's other problems, like Swoop, like it basically lets you like quickly kind of like run forward quietly, so that you can like duck back into the shadows or something like that. It's just too powerful. Like, you can just spam it pretty much, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of cooldown. If it had like a 3 to 5 second cooldown, I think it'd be fine. But right now, it's too easy to, like, a guard turns his back for a second, swoop in, grab the item, and then swoop right back out. So I think that needs to be nerfed, I think. There's some sound issues sometimes where, like,
these are a lot of negatives, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a lot. People tend to focus on the negatives, to be fair.
Yeah.
But I'll talk about the positives too. But there's like some weird audio issues where sometimes the NPC will start talking, and then a second later, his audio will start again. Weird. So he's looping over himself.
So that's a straight up bug.
Like, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's like, and it's happened a few times. It's not happened a ton, but it's happened 3 or 4 times.
And were they rushed on this? Like, I feel like
on one hand I want to say yes, on the other hand no, because they've been working on this game for a long ass time. Yeah. And I think a lot of that time was, one, they were losing, like, apparently there was a lot of turnover during the development time, and 2, they changed a lot of stuff.
Who's the developer again?
The developer is Eidos Montreal, the same guys who did Deus Ex.
Okay.
Which people seem to love suddenly now.
No.
And I thought it was, yeah.
No one loves that game.
Apparently people are crazy about it now.
No one loves that game. But I refuse to believe that.
I don't. Not to say that Deus Ex was bad.
No,
but it was
just middling, but I think the same thing happened to Dishonored. When it first came out, people were like, "It's not that great."
Yeah, people are like, now Dishonored's like, "Oh my god!"
People still playing it. People doing speed runs and all sorts of crazy stuff with that game.
Yeah, and it definitely doesn't feel like Dishonored. I mean, let's get that out of the way.
So next year, people are going to love Thief. Is what we're getting at.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. They'll talk about how amazing Thief was.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not Dishonored. I definitely don't feel like Dishonored at all. You don't, at least so far, you don't have like a bunch of abilities.
You're saying it's not as good as Dishonored, or it's just straight up different than Dishonored?
Straight up different.
Okay.
I consider Dishonored. I will consider myself a stealth elitist. If you can go into the game,
you're an anything elitist.
Everything I like is elitist. If you don't like mayonnaise, then I'm a mayonnaise elitist.
I knew it.
But my opinion is if you have the option on anything higher than normal difficulty to run into the game and just butcher the enemies, this is not a stealth game anymore. Yeah. Dishonored definitely failed that test. Because I went through it a second time on hard, and it was easier to just murder the shit out of everyone, and more fun, frankly, to just kill everybody. Because you could come up with such creative ways to murder everyone, like you had all these abilities, and then if you wanted to be stealth, then like half your abilities were useless because otherwise they would kill the enemies, and you don't want to do that. Or if you wanted to go ghost mode. So and it does rank you in Thief. So there's like 3 different rankings. There's Ghost, Opportunist, and just like Hunter or something like that, where you're like killing the enemies. Opportunist, I'm not quite sure what that is. I think like a mix. So like if you knock some people out, kill some people, avoid some guards, I think that's considered more opportunist. Just
whatever works in that scenario.
Right. And Ghost is they don't know that you're there. Like you in and out, and like they never even notice you were there. I'm going with the Ghost on the master difficulty with focus turned off. And you definitely, and you can, I deleted.
So these are like, when you're done with the level, you get a rank?
Yeah.
And so you're just trying to get Ghost at the end of every level?
Yeah, you don't, I mean, I'm guessing you could get 100% of one way, but it's used like a pie chart.
Okay.
So it's like, oh, you were 55% Ghost and 45% Opportunist.
So if you finish a level where you're not Ghost, are you doing them over?
No.
Okay.
No. I'm doing a Let's Play of it in a stream. And I figure people will get bored out of their minds watching me redo missions. But you can go back and redo missions though.
Okay.
Which is cool. I'm glad that they added that. But the whole stealth aspect, again, if you play on a harder difficulty, definitely feels good because, and especially if you use checkpoints, which I don't do that. I use quick save all the time. But it definitely feels like you can screw up. Like you need to plan ahead. Mm-hmm. I do think the guards sometimes take a little bit too much to notice you. Like I've been right up in their grill sometimes, and there's kind of like a progression type thing where they're like, is there somebody there? And in the old game it was kind of like that as well. Like if you were just barely visible and you did something, you made a noise, the guards would be like, hey, is somebody there? And they would investigate. They're not sure,
and you'd hide in your cardboard box.
Yeah, you'd hide in your box, and eventually they would just go, I must have just
a box.
Heard something. Though the Thief AI originally was even worse. It's like, oh, it's a dead body. Ah, well. This is the guy who's been patrolling with.
Hey, they were rough times, you know.
Yeah.
People come across dead bodies all the time.
Yeah, it's like, the guy who's patrolling with 2 minutes ago, keeled over with an arrow in his face. Nah, no big deal. Happens all the time.
One day to retirement.
Yeah.
That sucks.
They also have improved the AI. Now, I've heard a lot of people complain about the AI, and I've seen it do some really wonky things, like get stuck running behind a door and stuff like that. I haven't had it a lot, but then again, I'm not having them detect me, so...
Oh, slam. Look at that. I'm just too good to see all the AI bugs.
Sorry, folks. But yeah, there's other things that they do notice that I think is really cool. Like if a door is open, like let's say a guard's patrolling around, and you open the door and you walk through it or whatever, and you forget to close it, when the guard comes back, he'll instantly go to alert. He'll like, oh, whoa, this door is not supposed to be open. Cool. And he'll like start looking for you. Another thing is lockpicking is kind of a small mini game, and if you screw it up, it makes a noise. And if there's like a guard, a lot of times there'll be like a guard sleeping in a chair, and you're picking a lock next to him. And if you screw it up, he'll wake up, and you'll be like, oh, it's bad. So I like stuff like that. I really like that they notice things are ajar, but then sometimes they don't. Like one guy, he was patrolling in his house, and I he had a safe hidden behind a painting, and I like moved the painting up to get to the safe, and when he comes back downstairs, he's just like, doot doot doot. So there's some weirdness sometimes, but for the most part,
I wonder if in those games if there's a concept of like a smart guard versus a dumb guard, like, or are guards guards? Like, do they all have the same proficiency at detecting you?
Well, the thing is, that same NPC, I accidentally left a cupboard door open, and he saw that immediately, and he started looking for me. So I don't know if maybe they have to tag specific objects. Maybe they have to say if this is moved, they notice. Otherwise, they just don't care. Maybe that was the case, or it could have been maybe his field of vision just happened to just barely not touch the painting in some way. But I don't know how it works. But that one was kind of a bad case. But I'm really enjoying it. And what's funny is, and one thing I wanted to talk about on Thief in general, not necessarily even just the game, was I've been hearing a lot of negatives, but then when I find out the people who are spouting the most shit about it are people who haven't played it. It's I heard it's total garbage. They screwed the reboot up. It's oh, what part did you not like? Oh, well, I didn't play it, but I heard. And it's really?
I wonder if they just don't have the $60 this week, and so they're trying to tell themselves it's terrible. Don't buy it. I don't know.
I think they wanted. They were kind of like me. They wanted to hate it.
Yeah.
And they were going to hate it.
Yeah.
So they're going to hate it even if they don't play the game. They're going to hate it.
Yeah.
And I really hate that attitude. I freely admit that I went into this game expecting to totally rage, that they've completely butchered one of my favorite series of all time. But, I tried to temper myself and go, okay, there's going to be things you don't like. There's going to be things that you hate. But try to see what you think of the experience overall.
So here's what I'm confused about. You're a declared Thief fan. You love the series.
Right.
All right. And yet you're having a reasonable, middle-of-the-road reaction to this game.
To the reboot, yeah.
To the reboot.
That you're supposed to hate, right, by default.
So, I don't know. Something's not right there.
Yeah.
So, clearly you're not a Thief fan.
Yeah, that's the way it is. You're not a true Thief fan.
You're not a real Thief fan.
You would hate the reboot if that was true. Yeah, I don't know. It's just very annoying to see, especially when it's coming from people that you generally like and or respect. And you see that kind of crap, and you're like,
I think it's kind of contagious to hate something sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's just kind of let's hate on that kind of a thing. And so people are saying jokes about it or whatever. So I don't know. I think sometimes that just happens. It gets cyclical.
Well, and one other thing that didn't help was there was this image going around that said Thief map design. It had a picture of a 2000 a map from Thief 2. And then I compared it to the first level of the new Thief, and it was incredibly linear. Mm-hmm. And then of course the old Thief was really, really open. And after I played the level, that's definitely not I don't know if that map was from an early beta or something. Yeah. But there's definitely been multiple paths. It's not been this is the path you go. And people forget Thief 1 in many ways was pretty darn linear.
Yeah,
I haven't played. I was going to replay Thief 2 for the channel just to I wanted to play it for the new game came out, but I didn't get around to it. But there was a lot of places where it was very linear, or it was take path A or path B, but you still end up at point C, which, at some point that's just really needs to happen a lot of times without it being some huge sprawling mess, which, that's okay too in its own way. But for the most part, I usually have 2 to 3 ways to approach different situations or, go around different areas. And I haven't felt geez, I'm really railroaded, and I really I have to go this one particular way. I don't really feel that way very often in the game. Again, it often does lead you to one specific point that is okay, you're passing on to the next kind of level of this stage, if you will. But then it splits right back up again, where you can do this, or you can do that. So it's again, I've only beat the 2 main mission or 2, well, not including the prologue, the second chapter. I beat that, and there's side jobs that you can pick up. Some of them are really easy, break into this house, steal this item.
So just side quests.
Yeah. And some of them are client jobs where it's kind of in between the break into this house and steal this item and the main story missions. It's somewhere in between. It's longer and more involved, but not super long.
Do they have any story behind them?
The side missions,
things to do.
Yeah, there is a little bit of story, why they're sending you to do these things, and you pick up notes and things, and you can read and figure out, some of the stuff that's going on in the background.
You can read about, you can figure out this person's life, and they're dating somebody and all this stuff.
Well, you found out
gone home,
Yeah, sometimes there's oh god, yes. You spend 2 hours ruffling through their sock drawer and to find out the amazing love story. the love story of our time. But yeah, I haven't beat it yet. It might take a turn south, but so far I think it is a good stealth game.
Yeah, and I think most of the established reviews are saying it's not good, like it's not terrible. It's pretty middling, you know.
Yeah, I think it's fine now because I've kind of cemented at least my opinion of the game so far. But I tried to avoid reviews before I played it, so I wouldn't be like soured on it. And so because sometimes they'll mention something you might not even thought about. And then when you start playing, it's like, oh God, I'm noticing that like all the time. So I think I'm in far enough to decide the things that I like, the things that I don't like. So I think I might read reviews, but I think I did notice the Metacritic was like at 70, which is still good.
Yeah.
But it's funny because people are like, oh, it's getting slammed in reviews. I'm like, it's got like a 70.
I don't understand that. I don't understand why people think it's like, this atrociously bad game. It's like, I don't know. It's like, you almost want to like defend the ability of people to have middling opinions about. It's like we're so incapable of having a middling opinion about something. Like everything, like people are just hardwired to be divisive.
Yeah.
People aren't comfortable with the in between.
Yeah, and I really need to play the Splinter Cell games because I like stealth, and the only real stealth series I consider is Thief. So.
Well, if you want to borrow my original Xbox, you can bring it over and you can play some Splinter Cell on that.
Well, like Gaben, our Lord and Savior, and I actually did just bow my head right then. But he tried to give me a hint, like twice within like 2 weeks. Splinter Cell went on like mega discount.
Oh yeah,
and I didn't buy them because I'm like, somewhere in this house I have the original Splinter Cell and I think the second one, but I cannot find the discs anywhere. And it was like $2.50 for the original Splinter Cell, and I was like, I should just buy. Well,
I have the original if you want to borrow it
on PC,
on Xbox.
That's not going to help me at all.
It is a PC.
No, that's not help me at all. But yeah, that's my overall thoughts on Thief. Again, so far it's good. I would have definitely preferred they would have stuck. I understand it's a reboot, but I would have liked to see a lot more of the same story elements come into the new. Especially like the factions and a lot of the type of art. The cinematics are very like, well, they look good. Mm-hmm. It's not stylized in any significant way. Like if you've watched the original Thief cinematics, they're incredibly stylized.
Yeah. And
they're just very Thief. And this game is like, we have really good graphics, and it does. Game looks great. Game looks great and runs really well, even on Ultra. Because I'm streaming, which causes encoding, and I'm recording with Bandicam at the same time, and it still runs. It still runs well, considering all that crap going on. So it looks good. It's just not, I guess, artistically
right. Now, do you think this is going to be successful enough for them to try to make another Thief game, or is this kind of like, well, we tried Thief, that didn't work out?
It's hard to say. Despite the people kind of poo-pooing on it, I've seen a lot of people going, wow, no, this. I've seen a lot of threads like, the reviews are totally wrong about this game. And this game is actually really good.
There are people loving it.
Yeah, there's definitely, and there was even, I checked, like, I went to the bowels. I went to the Thief subreddit. And I was like, oh man, I'm like, they're going to be ripping this game a new asshole. But people were actually mostly positive, like, amazingly.
Well, I think they got an influx of people who weren't into Thief, and they just got a copy of Thief, and so like, I'm gonna go to /r/Thief,
Yeah.
But
I don't think I saw any. Like, I think it was like one main thread for the new game. I don't think I saw any one person who's like, this is shit, garbage, blah blah blah. I don't think I saw a single person doing that. I imagine the Thief subreddit probably was not very active before.
Yeah.
Last week. But yeah, I was really surprised. There was our games, or I forget which subreddit it was, had a thread on it, and I was reading through it, and again, most people seem to be, it's not like this is the best game ever, but this is fun. I'm enjoying this.
It's probably a good time of year for a game like that to come out because there's, for whatever reason, March is the new Christmas, and so that's happened a couple years in a row now. But, this is a chance for them to at least get, especially because it's available for PS4 and Xbox One.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think there are people who are just like thirsty for a new game on those systems.
Yeah.
So they probably sold some games that, they would have been under the radar if they were a September release. So
yeah, and maybe get more people into the stealth genre as a whole, because I feel like while there isn't,
well, it depends on if they're real stealth fans or not.
Well, I was actually can I say that because there's games that are called stealth, like Mark of the Ninja.
Yeah,
I just don't consider that very like. So stealth light is what I would call Mark of the Ninja.
What I like about Mark of the Ninja is that it allows you to play it as stealthy as you want, but it gives you the powers to not play it like that if you want.
Right. And a lot of times if you get caught out, like, you're just going to die. And that's generally the way a stealth game works.
Well, not in Mark of the Ninja, you can generally get away and just reset the trap or whatever. But if you want to play it through,
or like if a guard spots you, a lot of times they would just shoot you and like almost kill you. I was playing on hard too, so
okay.
They would kill you very quickly.
Yeah. But if you want to play Mark of the Ninja in stealth mode, you can give yourself like enough constraints that you can't be spotted. And so that game gives you enough offensive abilities and super quick kills that you can like not be detected at all. And I think that's really fun. I feel like that appeals to that same sense of what makes a stealth game fun. Yeah,
and this is, to be honest, this is the first time I've really done like a ghost playthrough of any stealth game. Honestly, when I originally played Thief, I was sneaky, but I also murdered the shit out of everyone. So I would sneak up and kill them, but I still would kill them. And I would pile their bodies like somewhere. And then when I played through again on my channel, I think I started off trying to do the ghost mode, and I was like, screw it. And I just ended up knocking out guards because it makes it so much easier to take them out of commission.
Yeah.
But now I'm actually playing it like in ghost mode, and it's taken me longer because I have to like plan out my strategy, and I have to think, or I have to reload because I screwed up, and leave the guard because I left the guards awake. And you can't. And the thing is too about a good stealth game is you can't. One of the big negatives of leaving a guard alive is because sometimes I have like a big patrol path. So you might forget this guard even patrols over here, and all of a sudden, oh crap, he's there because I thought, the guards are gone. I'm just going to run down the hallway.
I think there's an interesting design potential in making a stealth game where it's not only about avoiding detection, but it's about making it so that nobody knew you were even there.
Yeah.
So if you're not detected and you kill people along the way and you get whatever your objective is and you get out of there, people are going to know you were there.
Yeah.
But like if you make a level in such a way that not only do you have to get the thing you got to steal something, you are required to leave behind a decoy in the same place that it was. And so it's like get to the place where like a year could go by and no one knew that happened. It's like the idea of just that is a ghost to me. Because like, somebody's going to realize you stole the stuff.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that whole Indiana Jones. The bag of sand and the skull, just swap it,
The Crystal Skull? Oh, that movie was amazing.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea.
That movie was truly god-awful. But yeah, in fact, like even when I played Thief back in the day, despite me murdering the shit out of everyone, I would often you open a chest, I would get the stuff out, but then I would close it back because I like the idea that later on everybody's like, where was this guy even at? I like the idea of them questioning the guards, and they're like, we didn't see anything, and all the valuables are missing. Like, how is this even possible?
It's like the end of those whenever you finish Super Mario and you go through the levels and see all the enemies. Yeah. I love it. You go through all the levels and you see all these guards looking around what happened? Oh my god! Just every single guard you encountered along the way, just confused and baffled,
like them getting reamed out because you had to have been on the pay. You had to have been a take with this thief because there's no way he got here, stole all this loot, and none of you jerks saw him.
Yeah.
So I like that idea too. I really like the idea of, and I think that's what they're trying to award with a ghost is I don't know if they look at some things, like if there's light switches, I don't know if they count that against you if you turn those off.
Yeah.
Because I guess technically you could say, oh, this light was off, so there's kind of proof that you were there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly how that works, and guards notice if you turn the lights out too. Like especially if they're in the room and you like flip the lights. Like in the old game, they might go, "Huh, the light went out." Like they would say it, but then just go right back to what they were doing.
Yeah.
So they've definitely gotten smarter. There might be some hiccups that I've missed because I have heard some people complaining about the AI, but there's definitely some areas that there's been some significant improvements. So anyway, I think that's enough me babbling about Thief. What did you play? What did you
I didn't play any games.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming by.
Hey, later, everybody.
No, I actually didn't play as many games as I wanted to because life kept getting in the way. But I played some PS4 games. I got
Resogun. You played Resogun.
Oh yeah, Resogun. I haven't played that in a while. But there was another sale they had, and so I got Lego Marvel. Because, yeah. I kind of want it. I'm always in the search for couch co-op games that I can play with Sarah. Yeah. Because it's really fun to play those games that, you're both playing through this adventure, and Lego seemed like it'd be a really good fit.
Oh yeah.
We played it and it was fun, but there's so many people that are super into Lego games, and I've given them. This is the second Lego game I've played, and this is the second time I've gotten in a situation where I had to reset the game, turn it off and turn it on, and it's
what happened?
The character got stuck.
Oh,
and there was no. It's you change control over, you try to get out or whatever. The character's literally stuck in there. There's no way to I wish you could just make the character commit suicide so that he would respawn, but I couldn't get him to come out.
Could you get to that character with the other character and punch them? No,
because it was stuck in a story sequence where it was come help me, and it's I can't help you because
okay,
yeah,
wow, that sucks.
And so it's turn the game off, turn it on, restart the level. It didn't even save near right there.
Funny, that almost happened to me in Bioshock.
Really?
And Burial at Sea, I was jumping up somewhere to try to look at something, and there was nothing there, and then I tried to back out, and Elizabeth was had ran right up on top of me.
Oh yeah.
And she wouldn't move. So I'm trying to jump. I couldn't jump because you're kind of the thing where you're hovering in the air, so you can't jump. Well, I couldn't jump. I couldn't move. And finally, I realized if I aim my gun at her, she does that thing. Don't point that at me. And she moved, and I was yes, freedom.
That's awesome.
Elizabeth, she's yeah, you're gonna do what I want if you want to get out of this corner.
That's funny, but yeah, it's just bugs like that are so frustrating.
Yes,
because it's now I must go through, and it's so we played through the first 2 levels of that game, and we'll probably pick it up and play it again. The only thing and they're fun. I feel what's cool about that particular Lego game is that you have the unique abilities of the people you control. So so far we've played with Iron Man, Hulk, Spider-Man, Mr. Fantastic. I'm trying to think if there was another one. But you can swap characters who you control, and they have different abilities, and you can fly around as Iron Man, and you can just go off into the level, and it's really cool. The only other downside I'd say is that some of the objectives to progress seem arbitrary. So it's it's almost you could flowchart the logic to overcome every obstacle. Look around for hopping pieces, build the thing. Yeah. But the fact that there's hopping pieces over there wouldn't stick out to me at all. It's I have to build this thing that doesn't make any sense at all that it would be here.
Yeah. And keeping in mind this game is aimed at 6 and 7.
Yeah, and it's but that's the thing is I feel its arbitrariness is difficult. In the fact that it's nonsensical puzzles. Oh. It's really just
you have to think in a nonsensical childlike way.
Yeah,
nothing makes sense.
It's you have the square and the octagonal hole or whatever, and you we'll just keep mashing it until you get it in there. It's not
all kids know that.
Yes,
that's how you get
exactly.
the square. Bash that son of a bitch in there, and
so the puzzles just don't seem to be influenced by logic at all. They're just all brute forced.
Yeah,
which seems like lazy design to me, but I think that's just a result of spitting these things out in an annual cycle.
To be fair, I've heard. Wait, let me make sure. Actually, now I think about it, I'm not 100% sure I'm right about this, but I think I heard some pretty middling reviews out of that one.
Yeah. It's not one of the good. It's not going to go down in history as a good Lego game.
Right. What was the other one you played?
The other PS4 game? Or
No, the other Lego game.
Lego Batman, the first one.
Oh, really? I like that one.
Yeah. It was alright. I just got stuck, and it's like, I don't feel like playing that whole level again. Like,
yeah, I can definitely see that. I kind of Legoed myself out. Like, I remember when I first bought my 360, it was one of those that came with both Lego Indiana Jones and Kung Fu Panda. And I was like, I don't play either one of these shitty games. So I was like, I'll put Lego Indiana Jones in, I guess. I'll fart around with this for a while. And I started playing. I'm like,
20 hours later, your eyes are glazed over. Like, I really need to get to bed.
I know. I was like, this is so awesome. So I actually think I got 1,000 out of 1,000 achievement on that one. Like, it's one of the few Xbox games I got. All
I've only got a few.
So, but yeah, like the last one I played that. I played Lego. What was it? Lego Batman, and then I played through Lego Lord of the Rings. And I think by the time I got to the end of Lego Lord of the Rings, I was kind of like, all right, I think I'm happy with
enough
Lego
of that.
games now. Yeah.
But we'll probably play that through.
Is she liking
it again? She liked it all right, but I feel like she had kind of the same kind of things where she was just like, some of these puzzles and interactions seem random. Like, it's just you completely devalue the feeling of reward when the puzzles are brute forced.
Yeah.
It's not like I figured it out. It's just like, oh, that's the thing. It's just more of like, oh, that's what has to happen, more than like, I understand this puzzle. Because to me, that's the big like payoff of puzzles, is that something in your brain clicks and you get that feel of, I figured it out. But if you brute force it, you're just witnessing the solution of the puzzle.
Which is one reason I like the Swapper. And I'll talk about that game a lot.
That's coming out for the PS4 and the PS3.
Is it?
Yeah.
If you
I have it for PC though. I have no excuse. I should play it.
Oh wow, you really don't have an excuse.
Yeah.
That game's great. I really liked it. But yeah, it's a great puzzle game. But yeah, so Lego Marvel's
okay. I got it for sale. Like, I don't feel burned or anything, you know. Yeah. It was half price, so we'll probably play it again. I also played Strider. That came out. Yeah. I've only played it for probably an hour, but it controls are really fun. Like, it just, you start out and you just like, it's just classic Strider, really tight arcade controls, and you're just like slashing the crap out of everything, like shing shing shing. Yeah. It's just got that like ha like it's really cool. And it's, you know, it's more of a Metroidvania, which I'm a big fan of. So you're going around and exploring everything, and so far I've like finished the first two bosses, and they're like, the first one actually took me a few tries. Like, they're not like pushovers, but they're not like just obscenely frustrating. So the first one actually took me like, I don't know, maybe 5 tries, and it's like, it's not just like you go in there and trade blows. You really have to actively evade the attacks. Yeah. It can be frustrating because sometimes they can unfairly chain attacks. Like, they hit you, and that hit stun means they can hit you again, and it's like, I shouldn't be double penalized for missing that first attack. But the artistically, like, the design looks really cool. I like the way it looks, and you know, the only thing that's kind of like, there's just some random minor complaints with it. Like, the HUD design is really stylized, so you know, you don't necessarily have labels on everything. It's just like a bar of something, and it's like,
this picture of a farm is your health meter.
Yes, it's like, okay, this
every
is
time a light
too
goes
abstract.
out,
like,
every time a light goes out, you're closer to death.
So it's like, the first time I play it, there's no like explanation. Like, this is your health, this is your attack energy or whatever. So it's like, okay, I died. Why'd I die? Like, I don't know. I'm probably need to like read something, but I'm too lazy to do that.
It's 2014. I don't want to read a manual.
I feel like like one of the tenets of usability is that I should infer what my health is, just based on it being a visual representation of what my health is. And if I fail to do that, either I'm an idiot or they didn't do their job, and so there's probably equal probability of those things. But
I think there's happy mediums. People complain about hand holding, but there's something to be said about making your user interface easy to understand.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it's just the ability to infer what is meant, even when you abstract the representations of health or whatever.
Right.
So, but yeah, I need to pick that up and finish it. I've heard it's not very long, but it was $15, and I think it was really good. It's probably, to be honest, it's probably going to be one of the PlayStation Plus free games in a while. So, if you're not like super jonesing to play it, like if you just wait a couple months, it'll probably be free.
I do want to play it. I like that type of game. So.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and I'm always jonesing for a Metroidvania. So
I don't like Metroidvania. I prefer. I prefer the term Castle Troid.
Castle Troid, yeah.
I think that's
I like that.
Castle Troid.
It's funny because it's like, it's just like the whole thing of roguelike. It's like there's no label for the genre except for it's like this game.
Yeah.
It's like the forerunner of that genre. I have heard some attempts at labels, but they're all clumsy and super long.
We could just stick with Metroidvania.
Yeah,
and everybody already knows what we mean.
Yeah. Just like roguelike.
Yeah.
But people, it is the most effective way to, present what you're talking about.
Though I always like to, as someone who doesn't really like roguelikes, and so therefore doesn't really give a damn about any of the discussions going on, it's funny to watch people like argue about what is and what isn't roguelike. Like, oh, this game, people stop calling this roguelike.
This isn't a roguelike. It's not procedural. Like, this isn't a roguelike. It's not this. Yeah.
Yeah.
People
so sometimes I like to be like, I'm playing Skyrim, another roguelike. You're somebody like bust a vein somewhere.
Yeah. But yeah, so Strider's pretty good. I'm trying to think. I played a little bit of Bravely Default that came out for the 3DS.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. And it's really good. I just the amount of time that those games like demand is daunting sometimes.
Is it grinding? Like
no, it's not grindy at all yet. I mean,
but do you think it will be? Well, just the way you said, the way it demands your time. That's a little different. Like Civ, sucks your time.
Yeah,
it doesn't demand that you willingly give it away.
I just mean that the stories unfold so slowly.
Okay.
Like, go here, do this.
Right. I didn't know if you meant
go through this cave before you have the next story beat.
Okay.
Like those kind of things. And I've been playing a lot of arcade games.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big surprise.
Yeah,
a lot of CPS2 Capcom games like Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Marvel Superheroes and X-Men vs. Street Fighter
2.
And some Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Or Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah.
All right.
And so I finally got my Naomi, which is basically the Dreamcast equivalent arcade hardware that runs like Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I finally got that running with NetBoot, so I can just use a crossover cable to run ROMs on my Naomi, which is pretty badass. So I can now run every Naomi game in my arcade cabinet.
What's some good Naomi games?
It was Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Okay.
There's the Guilty Gear games. There's like Monkey Ball and Sega Tetris. There's Crazy Taxi and
yes!
18-wheeler.
You had me a Crazy Taxi. Let's go make some crazy money.
There's some obscure shmups that people really like Redurgi and Shikigami no Shiro 2 and Karus, and there's some fighter. There's one called Melty Blood.
I like it already.
Yes. Like anime fighters. There's probably about 50 games that came out for the Naomi. But as far as arcade platforms go, that's a pretty big number.
Yeah.
It might have the most releases, because like Capcom CPS2, you're looking at probably like 15 games that came out. So that was like, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, you know, X-Men: Children of the Atom, Marvel superheroes, wow. X-Men versus Street Fighter.
Children of the Atom, was that the first fighting game?
That was the first X-Men fighting game. Yeah. And then, but then it was Marvel superheroes, and then X-Men versus Street Fighter, and then Marvel versus Street Fighter, and then Marvel versus Capcom. Yeah. But you know, I've kind of discovered why Capcom did this. Is if you play Marvel vs. Capcom 2, you can tell that a lot of those sprites have just been all those animations have been ported over through all the MVC games. And so when they were making new releases and expanding the roster, like each game was just a release that built on the next one.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they did change some of the specials that were done, like the ultras, like you know, the special attacks.
Yeah.
But the core like animations and everything were additive, so they just kept adding to the roster.
Yeah.
And Marvel vs. Capcom 2 has a like crazy roster. So
play that sometime.
Yeah. You can come over anytime. And
let's go over there now.
I'll take a beating from you probably. So
we'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's my gaming as of late.
That's all there is to talk about. There was no news in the last 3 weeks.
Oh, no, nothing's really happened.
No major things that have happened at all.
So, I guess to kick off our news segment, the first story we wanted to talk about was the Irrational Studio. Is it Irrational Studios or Irrational Games? It's just
I think it's Irrational Games.
Irrational Games is laying off, was it 90%?
Yeah, like 90% of the workforce.
So the word of this was released from Ken Levine, who's, you know, the director of all things Bioshock, the creative lead of Irrational Games,
and one of the founders, I think.
Okay, so. I was
pretty sure
curious about that. I think he is. And so, you know, before Bioshock, they made System Shock. Yeah, and so they've been around for a long time. But it was through the success of Bioshock that they were able to just really ramp up dev for Bioshock Infinite, and it was a huge team of people, like way more that was on Bioshock, and that was way more that was on System Shock. So I think what was happening is Irrational Games was just getting bigger and bigger, and the stakes were getting bigger and bigger. And the interesting thing is that I'm curious as to where this decision came from. Like, if Ken Levine really wanted to go this route of being on a small team again, or if it was an ultimatum to Ken Levine, like we can't keep going this route. If you want to stay on Irrational Games, like what would it take for you to stay? Because I think maybe he was thinking about leaving. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much behind the scene we'll probably never know.
And I think he was super stressed out about Bioshock Infinite. Like, he was just working way too hard on stuff. And, you know, it's weird because he's got some non-gaming projects going on right now. Like, he's going to be a screenwriter for the Logan's Run reboot.
Oh, really?
Which is really weird. But I feel like he's wanting to divide his time to solely creative input towards a game with not, like, being a team, like, director or anything, or a manager, because I feel like he was probably wearing too many hats for Irrational Games.
Could be.
He just seemed really like disconnected and done with Bioshock Infinite by the time it launched. He's just like, it's like, get it out there. Like, so yeah, the weird thing is though, and this seems, I don't know if it's unprecedented, but it's very uncommon, that they're laying off all these people, they're staying open, and they're just completely re-gearing their strategy towards it. And the specific words he used in his open letter was they wanted to make story-based games that are highly replayable.
Yeah, which was an interesting.
It's a very specific combination of words that is kind of like, okay, well, I'd like to play a single game like that. Like, it seems like that's not a very common thing.
Right.
Generally, we regard those things as, like, not, they don't go together. Like, a game is either, if it's highly replayable, its narrative has no influence the game itself. And if it's a really good story, then why would you want to play it again if you already experienced the story?
I'm hoping that means meaningful choices.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that means like drastic changes.
Yeah.
When you make a decision, like the story goes in a totally different direction.
And that's still kind of like the holy grail of like narrative driven games is decisions with impact.
Yeah.
I mean, people talk all the time about how non-linear a narrative arc is, but it always means that there's less of an impact on things. Yeah. So, because the number of story forks in the story arc you have, then it exponentially increases the amount of assets and story you have to write. So
I was surprised when I found out Witcher 2 has at least one choice in the game where it's like you do this or you do this other thing. And somebody was telling me in the comments that I kind of assumed, okay, well, you go into and it's right before like chapter 2, I think. And I don't try not to spoil anything, but I assumed, okay, well, I made this choice, so maybe like these two quests are different than these others. But they're like, no, you're like in a totally different area. You do totally different quests. You deal with NPCs in a completely different way because you made it. So like if you played through again, at least chapter 2 would be 95% different.
Yeah. Like
even in where you were at. I was like, wow, that's really impressive. Like why was nobody talking about this with Witcher? Like that's a big deal. Like that I can't remember the last time that happened in any game where you make a choice and like the whole next section is almost completely different. Now I'm assuming this person was correct, but just from other things I've read that were mentioned, like, oh, you only see this NPC if you chose this, or you only deal with this, or you only get these quests if you deal with this, or whatever. So yeah, I would like to see that more often, where it's like you just do a totally different quest hub or whatever you want to call it if you make this choice. And my understanding though is that like that's the one split.
Yeah.
Because like as we've talked about before, for every split, like it gets crazy really, really fast. Because you, even with just 2 areas, can you imagine the time it took to do all the assets for this one area, write up the quest for it, do the dialogue, and then do the same for the other area? Now imagine if those were like you could split off of that. So yeah, you could see how it would spiral out of control very, very quickly.
And so what's weird is when you couple what he's saying with that and the fact that he wants to go down to a team of 15 people. Well, that's kind of even weirder because like traditionally if you want to tell non-linear like stories like that, you have to make up for it in people, like in work. So what I'm wondering is like we've seen some games that have made interesting advancements in procedural generation of stuff. So, whether it's, roguelikes or whatever that are procedurally generating actual areas to play in, or whether it's ambitious things like No Man's Sky where they want to procedurally generate worlds to navigate. If you are somehow able to find a way to procedurally generate story decisions and story beats, you could make a really weird experimental game.
Yeah.
I mean, the trick is, though, if it's procedurally generated, then, how do those story beats possibly make sense? Like, it seems experimental to the point of, that's weird, but not fun.
Yeah, and it makes it sound like, if you look at it that way, I can't imagine the quest being randomized. Like there's that game I played, 3809 I think was the name of it, where it was like step 1, go to this place that's semi-random and kill this enemy. Step 2, go talk to this NPC at this area. And then step 3 is deliver an object they give you here. Like it was very like piecemeal, I guess, where you obviously picked the kill stuff block this time, and you picked the deliver and talk to NPC block the second time, and you can pick the escort the third. So I have a hard time seeing it go beyond that. It seems like it would be very difficult. I mean, I guess they could go also a route of like lighter on the graphics, So maybe something 2D with less intensive art and sound requirements. I mean, that seems like the only realistic way to do that.
That does, I think, make an impact on that does negatively affect the emotional impact of your story. But I think it's harder to connect with, two-dimensional stylized character representations than like a fully realized 3D world like Bioshock Infinite was, where I could see character reactions and facial expressions, and those facial expressions conveyed emotional information without words.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're scaling the graphics way back, you could tell an interesting story or a fun story, but I don't know if you could make an emotionally impactful story as much as Bioshock Infinite or Bioshock was.
I definitely think you can. There's a game called The Cat Lady.
Mm-hmm.
It's an indie game. It's totally 2D, and it has kind of that like paper cutout type art, sort of.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but kind of that route. And I think they did a good job of conveying like emotion, and because I watched one person let's play it, and she got very emotional about it. And
were there voice actors?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like that's how you do it then.
Yeah,
because I feel like with voice work, because I think we talk maybe too much about Gone Home, but I felt like the voice work in that was good.
Yeah, it was.
And I think if you were just reading text the entire time, like it would just fall super flat. Like, but the fact that you're reading these you're hearing the voiceovers of some of the stuff that was taking place, and they also had a lot of music in there, and I feel like that is definitely an effective tool.
Right, but they'll have to nail it.
Yeah,
like they really need to nail the writing,
and
the voice acting and the music to get everything, because if that's what they were to do, which this is hardcore specation.
Oh yeah, this is crazy speculation.
Then yes, you would have to make up for that lack of facial, emotions, and make it up in those other areas, which I think that he thinks he can do.
Yeah, and I don't know. I hope he's not going down the rabbit trails of Peter Molyneux. Yeah, it's because it's like you want your game visionaries to excuse me. You want your game visionaries to have the ability to deliver their vision. And there is an inherent risk at being too much of a visionary if you're not if you're over promising and under delivering constantly. And I feel bad even suggesting that Ken Levine could be that route, but it's like when you say things like that, it hits me in that same spot where I hear Peter Molyneux talk. It's like, oh, this is some big promises. Like, I got to be careful here. But I think he's a really smart person, so it'll be interesting to see what he's working on. But we're probably not going to see something from them in years.
Probably not. So it's just a big mystery box right now.
So we will have our weekly speculation of what Irrational Games is up to.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what they can churn out with like a small team and whatnot. But they're still apparently going to be tied with 2K, I guess.
Yeah,
is what they were saying.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be really interesting if they just totally went on their own. It's like, F it,
they might not be allowed to do that. Like, they might be contractually obligated to stay with 2K, at least for a certain amount of time.
I wonder. But because 2K doesn't own the rights to any of that stuff, like Bioshock, do they? Yeah,
but generally, if you're a development studio, you sign contracts for like publishers.
Unless you're Double Helix. Microsoft forgot that contract. Whoops.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, as soon as that happened, Microsoft was like, all right, fine, you're not making it anymore. Like, it's like, I just curious. I just would love to be a fly on the wall, like, to experience the people at Microsoft when they found out. Who knows when they found out?
Yeah.
I doubt it was the day of, but it was obviously something that blindsided them, or else they wouldn't have chose Double Helix to do it.
Yeah, I would love to hear what like really went down there. Like that would be
Yeah.
And I know we talked about this before, but just a quickie again, I really fear for the safety of Killer Instinct.
Oh yeah.
Not to say that I'm hardcore in the Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
But I'm not really in any fighting game because I'm not good at any of them anymore because I'm old.
That doesn't keep me from loving them.
I like to watch them. It's like StarCraft. I like to watch StarCraft, but I'm terrible at it. But Injustice is my game to watch. I love watching Injustice. Injustice hype, but Killer Instinct. Like a few people out there went, yeah, Injustice hype. Shit, yeah. But Killer Instinct. I really want it to do well, just because I don't know. I just want it to do well. I guess.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see a fighter like that be taken seriously, because there's not many flavors of fighting games that are considered good enough to be on a professional tournament level.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we have any combo based fighting games that are
not
taken
that
seriously.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
Well, Marvel vs. Capcom seems incredibly combo heavy. I don't watch it much because I get bored with it really quick.
Yeah.
Which apparently puts me in the minority, but
man, how can you get bored with that? To me, it's the opposite. I just get overwhelmed with all the crap that's going on because it's 3v3 specials and all sorts of crap.
I think what annoys me is it's like, oh, this one person on your team has full health, and they just got comboed, and now they're completely out of the match. It's like, well,
I think they've actively tried to patch some of that stuff to.
Every time I tune in, like that's exactly what I end up seeing. One team member ends up going from pretty much full health to like nothing with like one big combo. It's like,
yeah,
well, that was fun, I guess. But
I guess that is probably the closest to something like that.
But yeah, it'd be good to see it go. But I just have unless the company that takes it over is just badass,
it would definitely take somebody special. I'm wondering if would Iron Galaxy Studios be able to pull that off?
Who's that?
Like they did Marvel vs. Capcom Origins, the Darkstalkers Resurrection.
Oh.
They've done some basically Capcom fighting game ports with GGPO patches in them. Trying to think what else they've done, because they've done other stuff too. They did Dive Kick.
Oh well,
the people that did Dive Kick
seals the deal.
Yeah, of course they can pull that off.
They're
probably too small.
I do. I still derive a twisted pleasure in pooping all over Dive Kick. I really do. Like, not necessarily because the people who made it, but because people were so hyped for that game. It was like, oh my god, this is going to revolutionize. It's going to be an Evo every year, and it's going to like tear up the scene. And like the first day it was out, like
I think you just love disenchantment. Like you love it when people are put in their place.
I do like that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
That's your favorite thing in the world. When people realize
no, my favorite thing in the world is probably Chinese food.
Okay, fair enough.
Chicken wings after that.
All right.
And then probably pee on people's dreams.
Okay, yeah. All right.
I like
so that. You'd like to find a way that you could combine those things.
Oh, God. That'd
Eat Chinese food while people's dreams are crumbling
around them. Eating spicy chicken
them.
Wings and then watching people's illusions get shattered.
Yeah, yeah. So be sure to tune into our next podcast where we
go to a dog pound and give like 8-year-olds puppies and then take them away.
Yep, all while eating sesame chicken and an egg roll
and some nice spicy chicken wings. Oh God, now I'm super hungry. We gotta stop talking about chicken wings like ASAP. But yeah, Irrational. And
time will tell.
A lot of people were giving Levine like a really shitty time. Like, oh, how dare you let all these people go and blah blah blah. I'm like, all right, look. First of all, and this is going to piss people off, these people are being laid off. They're not being executed. Like, as someone who has been laid off / lost their job / gotten fired multiple times, I understand how much it sucks. Like, I honestly 100% do. But people always totally overreact to layoffs. Like, oh my God, no! It's like, they weren't killed. They're still alive. Like they had to get a new job, which again sucks.
Some of them were
sucks.
actually. So we should take.
We
this
made
serious.
an example of them.
Yes, exactly. Just to show, at least you're not being killed.
Yeah,
no, I think I totally agree. I think some people did overreact and it was crazy, but
it sucks when you have a family and stuff like that. It absolutely totally sucks. Like,
I think
stressful.
the reason people are sensitive about it in the games industry is it's such a big problem in the games industry.
Yeah.
Like, of any like software development, like anywhere where people are making software, it's not like this. Like the amount of churn, and I don't know what it is, but people are terrible at putting together timelines and sales estimates on video games.
Well, I think part of the problem that I've heard is that they want to get the game pushed out, so they get all these developers, and then when the game's out, it's like, all right, well, let's just get rid of half of them and keep the rest for maintenance or whatever. Yeah,
and it's, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's sustainable for the management, but and it's just kind of like one of those things where I was like, what's going to happen? Are game developers going to unionize? Yeah. Like, the thing is though that this happens a lot. Like, and so I feel like it's at least once a month we hear a story about a developer just closing doors.
And before somebody goes, yeah, they should unionize, I hope you enjoy buying $90 games.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Those days of those cheap $60 games are over.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure no one said that. So
no, I heard people like, we need to unionize so that this can't happen. I'm like, this person had very little real life experience, so I was not surprised to hear. Some people on Twitter I follow to hear like the intelligent or interesting things they say. Some people I follow to hear the really stupid shit that comes out of their mouths. So we've been really negative today. Wow.
What do you mean we? You've been really negative.
I have been. I've tried to make this a team thing.
I've been fighting for positivity and inclusion this whole time.
Yeah, that's a negative.
Yeah,
inclusion is negativity. But yeah, I do think that that's unfair to, and it's also unfair to give him all this credit because he's the face of the company, but that doesn't mean he runs it. He's, as far as I know, he's just the creative director.
That's what I mean. Who knows where this decision came from? Like
he's just going to get the crap of it because it's people know him.
Yeah,
and maybe it was his choice. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know the structure of the company, but maybe he had nothing to do with it. Maybe they came to him and were like, "This is what you're going to do." I don't know. And we probably won't ever know. So I think it's unfair to. And he's been, if you follow his Twitter, he's been very active talking about various developers and saying, "Oh, this developer's worked with us since this, and he's worked on or she's worked on this. You should hire this person for graphics or whatever." Yeah. So he's been very proactive. I've been
following him for years, and he's generally pretty like down to earth and like he doesn't
weird.
Yeah, he's odd, but he's not a bad person.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. And there are people in the industry that are major assholes, and he's not one of them. So I don't think he's necessarily do this derision that he did something bad or whatever. But
and I don't think if this was a choice he made, or at least was part of making, I don't think he did it like, let's just lay off 90%. Like an executive meeting would be like, fire, not, whatever. So what are you having for lunch today? Yeah. Like, I definitely haven't got the impression from, again, just reading what he says on Twitter, which is obviously not me knowing him, but I don't get the impression he was just like, fuck it.
Yeah. So once again, our very unpopular advice on things is don't freak out, and you probably don't know the true story behind everything. So I mean, just stay reasonable about it.
It's fun to speculate, and it's fun to pick up the pitchforks, but at some point you got to put that shit down and go, okay, realistically, what probably happened here? And the truth is almost always somewhere in between one of two gross extremes, unless it's EA, and then it's probably whatever negative extreme.
That's totally true.
Other than that, then it's, I just don't get the impression that he's just like, I don't give a shit, fire him. Like, I don't think he would be trying to get them jobs. And things like he'd just be like, oh well, good luck. Yeah, you can put me as a reference if you want.
So be sure to tune in 2020 when Ken Levine releases his next game. Super procedural story fun time. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see what he comes up with.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I think that probably about sums up this week, this arbitrary time periods podcast.
random time period.
Be sure to tune in.
We're recording a new one tomorrow. It's crazy. Like, we don't do one for 3 weeks, and it's like 3 in a row.
So yeah, episode 10 and 11 will air at noon and 3 p.m. tomorrow, and then 12 will be in 6 months. So.
And then we'll do 11 first, and then 10. Always making people wonder.
Yeah. So stay tuned. We'll release our next episode when we feel like it.
We'll be announcing that we have layoffs.
Yes, exactly.
One employee is getting laid off.
Yes.
At the Super Game Talk Turbo HD podcast.
We're going to try to make story-based, replayable podcasts. So we'll see how that goes.
Choose your own adventure podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to hear 45 minutes of ranting and talking about Thief, press 1.
If you don't, then you're listening to the wrong podcast.
If you want to hear extreme negativity, tune in to youtube.com/Vertigo Tea Party.
Oh, I like that. It was a segue into a plug. I like that.
See how I did that?
Man,
always
this is professional.
Always be whoring.
Yes, exactly. And you can find me at Capanius, CAPANE.US, and on Twitter, CAPANE_US. And I'm also a contributing writer for Retro Magazine at readretro.com.
Read Retro.
Readretro.com. That's what you do with it. You read it. See?
Retroly.
Yeah.
Retroactively. I think all the fonts should be in 8 bits.
That would be really hard to read.
Who cares?
But anyway, go to readretro.com and comment on stuff and talk about it. And if you see an article that's by Travis Brown, that's me.
Downvote it.
And downvote it.
Leave negative comments.
No, don't do that. But be sure to check us out at supergametalk.com. Review us on iTunes. Send any feedback, positive, negative, whatever. We'd love to hear from you.
We need a second podcast just for our outro.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we're done. Bye.